Welcome to Premier League Predictions Week 28, and I'm going to predict every single one of these games, all 10 of them, all coming up next. Starting off at the mighty City ground, it is Nottingham Forest versus Manchester City. Now this one is going to be a really tough game to predict. Third versus fourth. Nottingham Forest drew 0-0 against Arsenal, and Nottingham Forest scored 0 goals in the last game. And overall, in terms of conceding goals, they've conceded a lot. They conceded 5 against Bournemouth, conceded 4 against Newcastle, conceded 2 against Fulham, but to be honest, that 2-1 loss against Fulham probably should have been 3 or 4-1 to the Cottagers. And overall, comparing the forms, Nottingham Forest have one of the worst. Only 4 points in the last 5 games in the Premier League. And now they're facing Manchester City. I feel like this could go either way. And I said last video that if Nottingham Forest wins versus Arsenal, I would go for them to win against Man City. But they did not win against Arsenal. They drew at 0-0. Yes, you might think, clean sheet against Arsenal, really good. Arsenal did miss 4 of their main attackers, and none of those 4 are proper number 9 strikers. So it was obvious it was going to be low scoring, that if it would be a clean sheet, it wouldn't be a real shocker. But looking at Man City, look at what they have now. Erling Haaland's now back. He's now scored. Going to give him confidence. Look at Omar Marmoush against Newcastle. My God, he rip shreds against Newcastle. They've now got multiple players that can run in behind the defence. Jeremy Doku looks really good in the winger position, looking fast as ever, crossing the ball into the box. Same with Savinho. In my opinion, I look at that 1-0 win against Tottenham, thinking in the first half, it could have easily been 2 or 3-0 to Man City. Overall, I thought that was a really good clean sheet against Tottenham. And they also did win against Plymouth Argyle 3-1, which is an extra bonus. And overall, looking at Man City, last time in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season, Man City won 3-0, right? And back then, Man City were in a really terrible position. They won at 3-0, even through times when Man City were terrible. Man City still won 3-0 against Nottingham Forest. And the fact that Man City are on better form, in my opinion, on paper, they are better than Nottingham Forest. Again, I still feel like Nottingham Forest are a great side and what they're doing is brilliant. But still, Man City, I think, is better and is going to overtake Nottingham Forest. I'm just thinking, if they did it through really rough times back then, I feel like they can do it in times now where they don't have distraction of the Champions League. They can focus on the FA Cup and Premier League. And now with the new signings they've made, and with the positive performance against Tottenham, I think they can do something against Nottingham Forest. I know Man City lost to Liverpool, lost to Arsenal, lost against Real Madrid twice, but I'm just thinking they've still got really good results despite them. And what I said about in the reverse fixture, I think Man City can win this. With the firepower they now got up top, I think they're going to win this. 3-1 to Manchester City. I know your Nottingham Forest fans are probably going to disagree, but looking at Nottingham Forest's form and the trajectory of where you're going, it feels like it's getting worse and worse, and it's starting to come back to reality. Still feel like you're going to finish in the top 10, and you're still a really brilliant side, but you're facing a very tough attack in Man City, which is much harder to defend against than Arsenal's attack. Definitely. Now moving over to a hopefully easier game to predict. It's at Anfield. It's Liverpool versus Southampton. Southampton have got battered against Brighton. They've got battered against Chelsea. Just looks like there's no hope for Southampton. But I do have to admit, at times I've seen the skillful Tyler Dibbling in his ball control with the feet looking really good, beating players. I've seen Sulemana come into Southampton in recent times, showing what he's all about, doing really well. But it's not enough. They're not doing enough, Southampton. And they just don't have any firepower. They just don't have enough quality. It's as simple as that at the end of the day. On paper, they don't have the quality. But you do have to admit, it feels like at times this season they have. Because when they faced Liverpool last time in the reverse fixture, it was 3-2 to Liverpool. And at times, Southampton looked like they could win it and looked better than Liverpool. But if it wasn't for them losing the ball in dangerous areas, they would have won that game. But looking at it, Liverpool are beating Newcastle, they've beaten Man City, and they're currently first. First versus 20th. Literally 5-0 to Liverpool. Sorry Southampton, but I'm going all in towards Liverpool. It's going to be a goal fest and an absolute thrashing yet again. Moving to Selhurst Park, it's Crystal Palace versus Ipswich Town. And Ipswich Town, I went for you to get a win against Manchester United. I mean, I don't think it was a terrible prediction, especially when Man United went down to 10 men. You almost had it, capitalising on silly Man United mistakes, but you still lost. And I haven't exactly lost hope for you to get any more points, but for the meantime, I've lost a bit of hope, and I just feels like the fact that you lost the game against 10-man Man United, it feels like that's pushed me over the line to not back you up at all, especially when you're facing Crystal Palace, which won at 4-1 against Aston Villa. It was a battering. Statistically, was also a battering. I mean, you could say it was the changing of Unai Emery's tactics with the 3-4-3 formation, and it looked like he changed it up for that game, but maybe they're not used to that change in particular. And that's why Crystal Palace thrashed them. That could be down to it. And it could also be down to Crystal Palace looking amazing. Because it's exactly what they looked like. They looked amazing. Nothing but a Crystal Palace win. 2-0 to Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park as well. And I know home advantage isn't as impactful as it has been in previous years, but it is still impactful and has more of an advantage over away. Moving over to the Amex Stadium, it's Brighton and Hove Albion versus the Cottagers. And Brighton, how dare you win 2-1 against Newcastle? How dare you? I was over-celebrating too much when that Fabian Schär goal went in. Way too over-celebrating. Both teams went down to 10 men, which was absolutely crazy. And Brighton, I hope you can get some silverware under the board. You did well against Newcastle to beat Newcastle. Overall, I think it should have probably went down to penalties at 1-1. You had to hang on near the end. The last 4 or so minutes, Newcastle did have a few opportunities outside the box, and they were literally trying to throw anything at Brighton in that game. But overall, Brighton beat Chelsea 2-1 after that 7-0 battering. Beat Chelsea again 3-0. Beat Southampton. Beat Bournemouth, only just. Probably deserved to be a draw, but beat Bournemouth. And then beat Newcastle. You're on a roll. But then Fulham, they beat Wolves. And you know what? You might be thinking, Wolves are in 17th. Fulham are much higher up in the table. They should be easily winning that game. Well, I don't think so. I genuinely think, even all the way down to Wolves, it's so compact in the quality of football. Because I think they've been very unlucky, Wolves. And it was going to be a hard game. And they did really well to get those 3 points. And I was surprised because I went for a draw. And in this game, I might do the same. There's no way I can split these sides. There's not going to happen. There's just no way of knowing. They are literally 1 point away from each other in the league table. There's barely any differential. They are literally equal. 1-1 between Brighton and Fulham. Give me a reason why one of these teams should win, because I can't split them. So equal. Moving on to another seriously close encounter. It's at the G-Tech Community Stadium. It's Brentford versus Aston Villa. Again, it's one of these mid-table sides. I mean, in my opinion, all the way down to like where Everton are and where Nottingham Forest are, 16th to 3rd, in terms of if any of them will go against each other, you could predict a draw in every single one of those games most of the time because of how equal it is. This year, the reason why I find it so hard to predict is because how random it is. It is football randomania. And that's because this year, loads of teams can beat loads of teams. It's different to any year. And I find that quite exciting. You don't know who's going to win what. Obviously, you've got a rough idea, but it's either that or I'm terrible at predicting. And in this game, it's happened again. I don't know who's going to win. I can't see Aston Villa winning it as they look terrible against Crystal Palace. I don't know what they were thinking changing their tactics, but they managed to get a win against Cardiff, plus Aston Villa. You're not winning it because you've also got Champions League football to think about. And that is going to tire you out. And that's been your main flaw this season as well, which hasn't helped. But Brentford, I don't see you winning it because I still feel like Aston Villa is going to show a reaction. And considering they went back to the 4-2-3-1 formation against Cardiff instead of the 3-4-3 formation they had against Crystal Palace, I'm assuming they're going back to normal. So maybe it might be a bit more of a closer game than it was against Crystal Palace. So Desmond Tutu between Brentford and Aston Villa. I mean, look at it. 10th versus 11th. Really close in the table. Really close on paper. Can't split the sides. Moving over to the Molyneux Stadium, it is Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Everton. Now, Everton, you are still cooking. You got that equaliser. O'Brien with the diving header. But is there a concern over your striker Beto, Everton? There was like 3 opportunities that I saw that I was thinking, Beto, you should have done better. Especially considering how good you are at scoring in recent time, how good your form is. But he missed quite a few of those opportunities. And that may just be a one-off, but it is always concerning when Everton stop scoring with their striker, because we've seen it countless times that Everton struggle with their strikers, they struggle with their goal scoring. I don't think this is the end, because they still haven't lost, they still haven't broken the momentum, and because they've got a good chance to get 3 points. Number 1, Wolves are below them. There's like a 10-point gap between Everton and Wolves, but the quality gap isn't as big as a 10-point gap. I think Wolves have been really unlucky. And you know what? They don't have Cunha. Huge miss. There's a bunch of other players that are going to be missed in this game. And overall, I think Everton are better. I think they deserve better than 16th. 2-0 to Everton. I don't think there's too much of a difference, but overall, without Cunha, the fact that they lost against Fulham and I backed you up to get a point, yeah, I'm going Everton 2-0. Moving to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it is obviously Tottenham Hotspur versus AFC Bournemouth. Now, this one's going to be a seriously tight game. Another one of those games where I could just go down the middle, because they're in the zone of 16th to 3rd position, where I think is really equal, that it could go either way. Tottenham are back on it. In my opinion, they're back on great form. You might be thinking, did you not see the game where Tottenham lost 1-0 to Man City? Well, yes, I know of it. I know they lost 1-0 to Man City, but think about it. Man City, yes, dominated the first half, but now they've got Vicario back in goal. He has made some crucial save after save, and overall, going before the Man City game and in the Man City game, their defence, Tottenham, has improved. And on top of everything, more players are returning back to the Tottenham side, which is great. More players returning from injury, and they're going to have even more returning from injury. The likes of Mickey van de Ven, Romero, and some other players are also going to be returning from injury. The problem is are they going to have any more injuries considering the amount of games that they have to play? They obviously have to play 2 legs in European football, which has sandwiched this game in the middle of them. So they still have to play European football, and Bournemouth don't. And overall, Bournemouth, you probably deserved a point against Brighton, but you still lost it. And overall, I feel like there's a bit of confidence, because I was talking about Man City dominating the first half. Tottenham did well in the second half to respond to Man City's first half, and the amount of chances they created, it looked really good. And now with the team starting to come back together, I know Bournemouth still look good, but I feel like Tottenham are going to be more desperate for the points. And at home as well, and the way that Tottenham are going, you know, they're not conceding as much as they used to. And the fact that Brighton managed to get a win, Wolves managed to get a win against Bournemouth, you know what? Tottenham can too. I've got this sense of confidence in Tottenham, even in the 1-0 loss against Man City. In my opinion, if you lose against a team, and I've still got confidence in you, you're going to win the next game. And I think it is a winnable game. 2-1 to Tottenham. But don't get me wrong, could be a draw, could go Bournemouth's way. But Tottenham, you're really starting to shine a lot of confidence in me. Moving over to Stamford Bridge, it's obviously on the Sunday kickoffs. It is Chelsea versus Leicester City. Leicester lost to West Ham. They tried their best at the end of the day, didn't they? I mean, it's done for, isn't it? The three promoted sides are down. I can't deny that now. They have to be. I mean, I'd rather them not be, to actually spice up the 17 teams that are normally in the Premier League. But you can't hide away from reality with these predictions. You have to be logical. The bottom 3 currently are all going down, especially Southampton, and maybe even especially Leicester. Ipswich, I feel like, are the only team that might be able to change that. But the bottom 2 for sure are down. I'm actually going to change that bottom 3. Ipswich might have a chance, but I hardly doubt it. But anyway, Leicester, yeah, they've got no chance against Chelsea. Chelsea, these games come at the right time for them, because they're going for a tricky spell and they finally can relax. They can recuperate themselves back into a good mental state, because they know that they're going to be able to win against Southampton, which they did with flying colours, and they know they're going to be able to win against Leicester, just because there's a massive quality gap. Sorry, Leicester, I actually think it's going to be a closer game because I feel like Leicester put up a decently good shift-ish against West Ham, if you get what I mean. They did a decent shift, and they're going to be wanting to fight. Plus, Chelsea have not looked perfect. So I'm going to give them a goal, but Chelsea, surely. I know Cole Palmer didn't score, but that technically could mean a good thing that you don't have to rely on Cole Palmer, as Enzo Maresca said. So I'm going for a common scoreline, being tactical there, going for a common scoreline 2-1 to the Blues, Chelsea, at Stamford Bridge as they face relegation battlers Leicester City. Onto a spicy Super Sunday 4:30pm kickoff between Manchester United at Old Trafford and the Gunners. This is going to be a very close game. Despite them being quite far apart in the table, it's going to be a really close game. I mean, I don't think Bukayo Saka is coming back till week 29, the week after this one, and Arsenal are missing 4 of their main attackers, and none of those 4 are a proper number 9. And you can tell, because they scored 0 goals against West Ham, lost 1-0, scored 0 goals against Nottingham Forest. And you know what? If they had those 4 attackers, not even a proper number 9 striker, they could have won that 1 or 2-0. I genuinely think so. So, it's going to be a very tight affair. But I'm just thinking about it. I went against Man United and they won, right? With 10 men. They've also got a few players out, don't they? And they've still got the same problems. And they've probably are going to keep on those problems throughout the entire rest of the season. Till pre-season and the transfer window, that's when the problems might go away, if they do it correctly. And they can win against Ipswich. You know, they can win against the lower sides. They can still have good moments where they did really well against Liverpool, Southampton and Arsenal, all grouped together in a little moment of this season. They can still have those moments, but overall, as a whole, they seem to always come out of it with meh performances that are not convincing. And I don't see them scoring a goal. Number one, Arsenal have got the best defensive record, so I think straight away that makes me think Man United aren't scoring, especially when Rasmus Højlund, I've spoken about him, and Joshua Zirkzee, in terms of the strikers getting their service, getting the help they need when they are in those attacking moments, it isn't enough, it's not good enough. And they're missing the likes of Amad Diallo, so I don't see them scoring. But Arsenal, there's no way they're not going to lose again, especially against an unconvincing Man United team. So I'm going to go 1-0 to Arsenal. Only just about though. Very low scoring considering Arsenal don't have their attackers. No more than 1 goal in this game. If it is, I'm surprised. But now moving on to the London Stadium, it's West Ham United versus Newcastle United. Right. Newcastle. I predicted them to get a draw against Liverpool. And you may think I was predicting with my heart, not my brain, but I genuinely was predicting with my brain. Like I actually was. Because I thought Isak was going to play. And I didn't realise Callum Wilson not playing for a long time is going to make him a bit rusty. He still looked good to get in the positions. Like that one chance, he controlled it really well, but in the end, it went completely wide. But I feel like that final ball for Callum Wilson to collect, or anyone in the box to collect, was poor against Liverpool. And against Brighton, you could say the same thing, but Isak was there. So he managed to get an offside goal, and if that goal went in against Brighton, my God, that would have looked good. But Callum Wilson came on and didn't look amazing. Now, Isak, apparently according to Eddie Howe at the end of the game, he said it was just a fatigue issue that he came off. So I'm assuming he's going to be starting for this game. And if he is starting, Newcastle will most probably win this. But if I knew Isak wasn't going to start against Liverpool, then I would have actually went Liverpool. I've gone for Liverpool to win in the reverse fixture. So I feel like Newcastle are going to win this. If Isak isn't available, I would go for a draw. Especially when West Ham have gotten 2 great results. And the first time in like a year, I think the commentator said, since they actually got back-to-back wins, which is crazy. They won against Arsenal and they got a comfortable win against Leicester. So I feel like they're going to score 2 goals because I've seen some concerning issues. Newcastle do look good defensively, but without Lewis Hall, it's going to be tough. And like against Nottingham Forest, they defended really well in the first half, but the contrast between the first half and the second half was crazy. They defended poorly in the second half, but great in the first half. So I feel like they might defend good at times, but also be a bit sloppy in the passing, like they were at the start of the Liverpool game, and give away some sloppy chances to clinical goal scorers like Jarrod Bowen for West Ham United to get 2 goals in this. But Newcastle with Isak are going to get 3 goals. And I'm just hoping Newcastle can win the appeal for Gordon so he can play in the cup final. But if Newcastle can win the appeal for him to play against Liverpool, I feel much more confident going into that final. On to goal of the week. I think it's quite simple which one I'm going for. It's Justin Kluivert's goal. They lost to Brighton, did pretty well, but that goal, my gosh, it was a beautiful goal. Almost perfect, down to the minute detail. But I've got no fancy graphic again, but one thing that might be fancy is my predictions. No, I always say the same thing. 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. It's not fancy. I'm terrible at predicting, but I've put in a new logic for these predictions. At least I think. I'm just hoping at this point. But that does overall put me on 139 points out of 542 points. Oh dear. Let's move on. Let's get you gone out of this video. Check out this next video and hopefully your day goes really well, because my predictions aren't going well. Check out this next video that I'm about to punch you to. Toodle pip.